All right, round two of SI playoffs just wrapped up, and we're gonna go over those matches. And then after that, I'll be doing my predictions for the next set of games tomorrow. So, to start, let's look at the games today. Pretty brutal day, because this is always the most brutal day of SI, because we see half the teams get eliminated. We go from 16 to 8 teams. Um, and for the most part, I'd say this day was pretty predictable. Um, this top part of the bracket was brutal. I just feel like the bracket balancing was a little unbalanced because like we have all the APAC teams are here. Well, A APAC teams, and then we have G2, M80, and Secret are all up here, which are all favorite teams at this event, and we would only see one of them come out of the day today, of course, because they would have to eliminate each other, and then I don't know. Down here is just kind of like all the mid teams, I guess, which is I feel like it's more balanced here. Um, these two just feel like really unbalanced because like these two teams are like pretty bad, and then Weibo are way better than both of them. But they're all technically from the APAC region, so it just feels weird that all the APAC teams ended up in the one side of the bracket. But anyways, let's just get started with the games from top to bottom. So game one, G2 M80. Um, M80, yeah, apparently, like they said on Twitter, um, they had good practice this event, but they just weren't really able to translate it to any of their game days, and they just kind of fell apart here against G2, got 2 0'd, and a rough early exit for M80, but sometimes it is how it is. I still think they had a great year. They did win the Munich Majors, so still a big accomplishment for them. Um, and I'll be looking forward to see them next year because I just think they're a great team. Uh, next, Daystar versus D plus. Again, in my video yesterday, I picked Daystar to win this match, literally purely for the hate watch against D plus. And I had a feeling that D plus probably would win this because they haven't been playing like totally awful this event, but still not great. And yeah, they did win, so it sucks not to get probably one of the easier predictions right, just because you gotta when you committed to the hate watch, you need to commit to it fully, or it's not a hate watch. And then Heretics versus Oxygen. I feel like for a lot of people, this was probably a hard one because I think for a lot of people, Oxygen, you know, didn't really look that great because they only were able to beat Enterprise, which they didn't win a map this event. Probably the worst team here. And then Heretics were kind of doing a little better than expected as a T2 team. They came into their group and got a couple wins, um, and also took a couple of maps off teams that people thought um, they probably wouldn't have. But Oxygen did end up winning. I kind of had a feeling that Teams Heretics kind of just lack of experience would just kind of show, and it definitely did today. Um, Being a T2 team, even though yeah they got like ex T1 players on the team, they're definitely their chemistry as a team, and experience together as teammates takes a while to grow, and this team hasn't been that long together for very long. So yeah, Heretics get eliminated, and then IP for SSG, not SSG, Shopify Rebellion, and yeah, this one also felt like a pretty simple prediction. Yeah, NIP have been winning maps this event off against pretty good teams, but they can't close out a series ever, and this just happens again, right? They just actually just can't finish a team off. So Shopify do win this. And then G2 versus Secret. Probably one of the hardest games of the day because I think both these teams could make it farther in the tournament, especially if they just had different matchups or were in a different bracket. But unfortunately, one of these teams had to eliminate each other. And this was a very interesting match because of just the veto in general, right? G2 let Clubhouse through a notorious permaban map for G2. It has been all year. Um, and then G2 pick consulate, a classic G2 map, been a staple of their rotation this year. It gets banned against them constantly because teams are afraid to play them on it. And then we get Bank as a last map, which has been like a great map for both these teams this year. So it only felt right that this series went three. Um, but I just feel like throughout this matchup, Secret's game planning was just clearly better throughout the entire thing. And honestly, in the first map, the G2 won Clubhouse, which was pretty incredible, by the way. I'd never thought in a million years that G2 would win a Clubhouse game this year. Never, especially against a proficient Clubhouse team like Secret. But Stompin like dragged G2 over the line on Clubhouse. It was genuinely like a crazy performance he put on that Clubhouse game to just win rounds by himself for G2. And then the same thing really happened on Consulate, except it happened for Secret, where they just had one player really pop off and just completely carry everyone. Even though the rest of the Team Secret players, did fine, but like Mowgli, I can't remember if he had also like 17. I don't know if he got to 20. I know he had at least 17. Um, but yeah, just like a crazy performance from Mowgli as well. So we get like an insane stomping game and then an insane Mowgli game. So both the star players for each team are just popping off um, on their respective map picks. So Secret lose their map pick, and then G2 lose their own map pick. So it was very interesting heading into Bank. But when it went into Bank, I just had a feeling. Whereas G2 were like probably the best Bank team in Europe to start the year, um, around like June, July. I definitely feel like Secret, as in more recent times, have kind of come in and snatched G2's like Secret Bank chain. They came in and snatched a chain, and they've definitely been the better Bank team as of late, and that definitely showed here. G2 just kind of looked lost a lot of the, that match for the most part, and Secret just capitalized off of G2's many, many mistakes. Specifically, I want to talk about how, I don't know how it was possible, but Savage running through the middle of the objective in front of open windows that G2 players playing on in killing Loira, placing the hard breach or the thermite on the CEO wall to open it into janitor. Like that is just I don't know. I do not get how he runs through the middle of the open site in front of the windows that players are on, kills Loira, gets back safely, and continues to get kills in the round. It was just ridiculous, and I knew as soon as that happened, that was when the game was over for me. I was like, okay, if Savage is getting away with this, then this is just cooked. Unless G2, make some crazy hero plays, basically that save the match. So yeah, rough day because I think a lot of just crowd favorite teams went home today. Um, so yeah, and then D plus versus Weibo. This is probably the easy prediction of the day for me. It was like whether who wins out of D plus or Daystar. It was like Weibo's beating them like no matter what because they're just far inferior, and that showed. W7M and then Oxygen. They played each other in the groups. W7M won, and I didn't think Oxygen were a good enough team to be one of those teams where it's like, you lose to a team, but then you play them a second time and you've learned, and then you beat them that time around. I don't think Oxygen are quite on that level, um, yet to be that good. To they definitely played a good game again, but it still wasn't enough. And Fluxo beat them for a second time this event, and this time eliminating them. And then Shopify versus SSG. I mean, SSG is just blessed, I think, because they've only played NA teams so far. Unfortunately, they did have to play Wildcard, the one NA team that owns them. So they lost that one. But besides that, they've beaten every other team here. in the playoffs so far because they've only played NA teams, being M80, Wildcard, and Shopify. And to be honest, I thought SSG was going to lose this one here. It was looking really not good on round 12 of Cafe. But the nade just that spoit through at the guy in freezer, I think it was J9, just did nothing. That he just kind of sat in the nade. It did no damage, and Shopify thought it was clear because nothing happened. And SSG got blessed with a free round basically because of that, and the game got sent to overtime, and then SSG won in overtime. So really, honestly, brutal loss for Shopify, especially because I really thought they turned a lot of things around in playoffs, even though they only won one playoff game. Their game versus Falcons, they honestly probably should have won. They lost a 5v3 on 7-7 map 3. And then again here versus SSG, where just some truly unfortunate circumstances happened where a nade just doesn't do what it's supposed to do and flush someone out of their position by threatening to kill them. And yeah, so those are today's games. Next, we're moving on to the 4 games taking place tomorrow. We're going to start with the lower bracket games. So I think we go SSG Fluxo W7M first because that match has already happened, this event, a couple days ago in the group stage. So they played each other in the group stage already one time. Very close game. A game that SSG, I honestly thought should have won. I talked about this the other day. This game, I believe. And yeah, the SSG really kind of threw this match away. They got too eager to close it out, and W7M capitalized on SSG's complacence and ended up clutching up the second map and also clutching up the third map, to be honest, too, because SSG were in position to win map 3 as well, being up 5-3, almost looking like they were going to go up 6-3. But then W7M, yeah, just some crazy clutches from them in this matchup in the group stage. So looking at maps here, I feel like it'd be hard for Fluxo to let Border through again because SSG beat them on Border. They also lost to Oxygen on Border today. A much closer Border than this one. But their Border has been looking great. But I know Fluxo W7M are also, very hesitant on playing the Lair and the Fortress too. They don't seem very confident in those. So I honestly feel like we could see a pretty similar map veto to this. I think maybe we could see a Nighthaven Labs instead of one of these maps. Possibly, or even like a Chalet. But I feel like we'd get a pretty similar veto to something like this. And for me, it just comes down to, I honestly think SSG can, upset here and win this. If you even want to call it an upset, because, SSG should have won this game, to be honest. Which makes me, want to pick them. But, these teams are both, I think they're just so evenly matched, right? And that's so hard about predicting now so late in the tournament. There are a few teams left that are, clearly, way better than other teams, or teams that are way worse than other teams. All the remaining teams are all really strong competitors. So there's not really a bad choice, I think, for the most part. So I think for this match, I think I'm going to just take the SSG. I think they'll learn from their past mistakes in the match, and they'll be able to finish it off this time. But anyway, I do believe like one of the NA teams will win tomorrow. Either Wildcard or SSG will upset their Brazilian matchup. Next we have Secret Weibo. They played each other twice this year, both being 2-0s for Secret. Um, Weibo have been decently competitive in those 2-0s. And I would say that this SI is the best form Weibo has been in all year. So Secret are playing an even better Weibo than they were in at Munich or EWC. Um, but of course, the map veto has changed since then. Of course, Skyscraper is out. So Secret don't have the Skyscraper anymore to play against Weibo. Fortress is now in. I'm not really sure how either of these teams' fortresses are. I think Secret played it once and lost it to SSG. And that's about it. I don't think Weibo have played Fortress yet. But yeah, I think Bank would be like a huge mistake if Weibo let them have Bank. Even Border too. Border will definitely be closer. It's a better map for Weibo than it would be for Bank. Bank is like taking Secret to Bank is like a death sentence. It feels like it definitely feels like their number one map. Yeah, Secret not very confident in their lair in this matchup. They banned it both times. Secret also, not a good cafe team. They want to keep that out. Neither of these teams are like love Nighthaven Labs, but I think they both play it. And Weibo really not wanting to play Consulate, and they might be scared of Consulate as well again after the match today. But I feel like Secret aren't like the best like Consulate team per se. I just feel like Secret had really good game planning against G2's Consulate rather than plus Mowgli just popping off rather than them just being an amazing Consulate team. So I don't think it's like their best map. And then we also have Club, which seems to be at this tournament at least. Weibo have been playing the Club, and I know Secret are not opposed to playing Club, but I just feel like Secret are kind of the team in the lower bracket right now. They feel a little destined to kind of make that lower bracket run right now, and I still think just based off the history too, that they're just more likely to win here, and they are the better team. So I'll be taking Secret to win this game. Next, we go upper bracket. Who do we have next? Okay, Falcons versus Furia. So this is a matchup that also already happened this event in the group stage, and Furia won 2-1. And it was a pretty good matchup until we went to later, to be honest, where it was a bit of a blowout. But these are both, two contending teams, both kind of looking. Furia are looking to restore their glory, whereas Falcons are still looking for glory after so many close events. I mean, everyone knows this by now. If you watch any CG sports, that Falcons are the bridesmaid of every event, basically, it feels like at this point. But they can never win. But yeah, this just feels like, I don't know. It feels like they have to win this event, but it feels like Falcons need that. They need that. They need that lower bracket run. They need to be blessed by the lower bracket buff, to win this event. So, but we could also have a situation where Falcons, they learn from their group stage game here, and are better against Furia than they were in this, and also beat them. But I feel like they've definitely improved as this is going on, because they had that very shaky game against Shopify, and then after that I thought, they might lose to Secret, but they actually played better against Secret. They just kind of Falcons kind of just seem to own Secret, whereas Secret kind of own G2, at least when it matters the most. When it doesn't matter, G2 owns Secret, but when it matters, Secret owns G2. But Falcons just kind of own Secret in general. Um, so for this, I feel like Falcons. I need to send them to the lower bracket so they get the lower bracket buff so they can win this event. Because honestly, I kind of want to see Falcons win this event. They're kind of due. And then next and finally, our last matchup will be FaZe Wildcard. They played each other in Munich. Um, FaZe won. This wildcard team is definitely better than the Munich version, though. And I definitely think while FaZe have been playing good, they still haven't been playing at their peak form, I'd say. They've definitely um, had their moments where they've looked not so great, particularly against G2, where they kind of exposed them on the layer. So I feel like even though, I don't know, Wildcard kind of permaban layer, so maybe they're not confident in the layer. And I know FaZe aren't bad as layer, but I feel like, if Wildcard, can kind of mimic what G2 did to them on layer, I feel like it could be really successful. Because G2 exposed the shit out of them on the layer. Um, and then Cafe, I don't see Cafe being played again. FaZe have been like perma banning at this event. They do not want to play the Cafe. I could definitely see a Chalet between these teams or a club. I feel like we could definitely see. Actually, I don't know if we'll see a Fortress. FaZe have not been afraid to play Fortress, but neither have Wildcard, and Wildcard have looked like the best Fortress team at this event so far. And I don't know if FaZe are willing to risk that because right now Fortress almost feels like a guaranteed win for Wildcard. Um, and I don't know if we'll get Night Heaven Labs either because Night Heaven Labs hasn't looked that great for FaZe. It's looked fine, but just not great. Border has not been good for FaZe either, and I definitely trust Wildcard's Border and Labs. I think more than Phases. I think they're better at those maps. Um, Consulate, definitely a FaZe map. Consulate and Bank, if we get either of those. Um, and then Club, I'd say, is pretty even between these teams now. And for this matchup, do I go tried and true, right, or do I pick like the underdog, if you want to call Wildcard an underdog? Because I feel like they've already proven enough that they're not really an underdog. Um, they beat Inferior and Falcons too. I honestly, I think I'm gonna take Wildcard. I feel like they're just making a run at this event, and just kind of one of those runs. So yeah, these are going to be my predictions. I also think if I get like one more wrong, I can't get the battle pass anymore, which isn't that big of a deal for me, because it doesn't really matter too much to me if I get the battle pass or not. It's just kind of like, I don't know. This is just kind of like a for fun thing, really. If I get rewards for it, that's cool as well. But yeah. Uh, anyways, make sure to save your predictions. Hope we get some good games tomorrow. And if you stayed all the way to the end, I really appreciate it. And have a good one.